Bueno, Tere, hoy vamos a estar con una escritora maravillosa. Qué emoción que vamos a tener otra vez la oportunidad de conversar con ella. Y esta mujer es nada más y nada menos que Riane Eisler, que es socióloga y abogada graduada en la Universidad de California. Y sus libros tratan de la teoría de la evolución humana, la historia de la cultura y los modelos de cooperación. Incluso se le
Ah,
considera ser, en sus libros de antropología, la consideran ser como la mejor heredera de la arqueóloga Marija Gimbutas. O sea, es una mujer que ha
sí,
estudiado muchísimo y que ha investigado mucho sobre este tema.
así es. Y es una mujer que tiene más de 90 años, que vivió los campos de concentración en la Segunda Guerra Mundial, es sobreviviente de los campos de concentración y es una mujer que tiene una vida muy llena de historias y de investigación. Y bueno, es lo que más me encanta de Riane es la humildad de esa mujer, lo accesible que es. Claro, igual que Susan Griffin, que ya no está con nosotros y que estuvimos a punto de grabarla y no lo logramos porque, bueno, she passed away, murió hace 3 semanas y no alcanzamos a grabarla. Pero con Riane tenemos la bendición, el honor de tenerla con nosotros. Ella ha escrito varios libros, bestsellers. Nuestro favorito, que es El cáliz y la espada, que es el paso de la historia de la humanidad y la divinidad, de la diosa a los dioses y todo el mundo prepatriarcal. Y también tiene 2 libros que son El placer sagrado, y es un estudio de la sociedad, en 2 tomos, un estudio de la sociedad a través de lo que es la sexualidad, el sexo, y lo que a las mujeres nos han privado con respecto a ese tema y cómo la moralidad comenzó a aparecer en la humanidad y a cercenar a la mujer, a privarla y a limitarla, no solamente en el placer, sino en sus acciones en la vida. Entonces son varios libros, no solamente estos 3, ella tiene muchos otros libros más, una mujer extraordinaria y la vamos a tener con nosotros pronto. Gigi, tú me acompañaste en la lectura de El cáliz y la espada en el grupo de lecturas arquetipales que tenemos en WhatsApp. Y
Así
en
es,
aquel
Tere, la verdad que para mí.
momento, sí, en aquel
Sí,
momento
no,
yo
era
lo
que.
tenía en inglés,
Exacto.
yo lo tenía en inglés y lo traducí al español. No saben lo que yo sufrí. Traduje todo este libro. Bueno, resumen, pero este libro del inglés al español al grupo que tenemos en WhatsApp de lecturas y fue algo extraordinario. Ahora lo tengo en español y lo voy a leer de nuevo, esta vez de manera más relajada, pero vamos a estar con ella. Riane es bilingüe, Gigi.
Ah, qué suerte tenemos. La verdad que, mira, me parece que es todo un honor el que podamos tenerla aquí con nosotras. A mí es una mujer que me conmocionó mucho cuando empezamos a leerla en el grupo de lecturas arquetipales, Tere, porque era como todo lo que yo he estado estudiando de manera desperdigada, ¿no? Investigando desde que tenía 18 años, de repente esta mujer lo comprendió todo en un libro súper fácil de leer y de comprender esa evolución y cómo ella además no se queda solamente en recopilar la historia pasada, sino en cómo analizar cómo puede ser este cambio hacia una sociedad igualitaria y colaboradora, ¿no? El paso del modelo de dominación
Así es.
al modelo colaborativo y hasta inventarse un término para denominar eso, siendo consciente de que no existe ninguna palabra que pueda aludir a eso que se vivió durante tantos milenios. O sea,
Sí,
que es algo muy
Así es.
real.
justamente te iba a hablar de que teníamos ese término acuñado, que de repente sería buen momento para explicar, ¿no? Sobre un poquito más mientras llega Rien, de hablar justamente de la Gilania, ¿no?
Pues sí, la verdad que sí, es una cosa muy, muy interesante porque etimológicamente tiene 2 palabras, ¿no? 2 raíces griegas. La primera que es gine, que significa mujer, y aner, que significa hombre, ¿no? Entonces, y luego el sufijo ia, que significa sistema o forma de organización. Así que la Gilania sería literalmente el sistema de mujer-hombre, o más poéticamente si decimos un orden donde lo femenino y lo masculino coexisten en equilibrio, ¿no? Y esa es una clave fundamental para entender a Eisler, porque ella va más allá del género, y entonces habla de una relación no jerárquica entre los sexos, pero sin predominar ningún género, no hay ninguna dominación, y eso ni patriarcal ni tampoco matriarcal. Sería una forma de relación o un sistema paritario, colaborativo y simbiótico, ¿no? El que todos se aportan a sí mismos, ¿no?
Y suena así como un ideal, ¿no? Que
Sí,
utópico,
suena
pero
como pero un ideal posible, porque tal cual
claro.
lo explica, y vamos a tener el gusto de que ella nos cuente también. Yo tengo mucha curiosidad, Tere y Frida, por ver cómo ve ella la evolución de todo esto, porque ella escribió el libro en los años 90, si no me equivoco, ¿no? Y claro, han pasado casi pues 40 años, y cómo ha vivido ella esa
Sí,
evolución, porque ha seguido trabajando en todo esto, no es algo que ella escribiera y soltara, es su propia vida, ¿no? Y habla también de cómo ese cambio y esa reconexión interna en lo masculino y femenino de cada uno de nosotros propicia que se cree fuera. Entonces, yo tengo muchas ganas de saber cómo ha evolucionado todo esto en ella, ¿no?
disculpen, Riane está
Está aquí ya.
conectada, ya podemos
Exacto.
salir. Algo clave del programa de hoy es que va a ser bilingüe. Riane vivió muchos años en Cuba, creo que en Argentina también, se defiende en español. Nosotras nos defendemos en inglés, no tanto así, pero vamos a hacer nuestra mejor postura. Y vamos a estar manejando los dos idiomas. Y como va a estar con subtítulos, pues esperamos que ustedes nos acompañen como puedan. Pero esto es un honor muy grande. Riane, are you there?
Yes, I finally found the
Oh,
passcode.
wonderful. There you are.
I've been trying and trying to get in. I sent you
Oh,
some
well,
emails.
yes, we saw it and I just answered it. Riane, we have cameras with me. I have a camera pointing that way. And
Yes.
sometimes you will see me looking at the camera instead of looking at your eyes, okay? And then we have another camera this side that is pointing at you. And also we have Zoom. And so we have 3 images of us sharing. And with us is Gilania Prado. She's from Spain. She is in Canarias. And she will be sharing with us. And also from time to time, maybe Frida Ayala, who lives in Valencia, España, will also be sharing with us. Okay, but mainly it will be between you and me.
Okay, and I am so sorry, but I finally found your email, and Leah forgot to put it into the schedule. So
No, it's wonderful. We admire that you have so much ability to connect in Zoom and emails and everything. So in
thank you.
our opinion, you are always a great woman, always.
Well, thank you. And I speak Spanish, but very poorly. So I think we better do it in English.
In English, yes. Now,
But you're
always
going to
start.
you're going to translate this, or what are you going to do?
Yes, it's going to be translated into Spanish, and whenever I speak Spanish, it will be translated into English. For example, right now I'm going to read from your book a little piece so people know where we are heading to. Okay? And I'm going to read it in Spanish and it will be translated, but I'm sure you understand because those are your words. Okay.
Okay.
Voy a leer ahora un extracto maravilloso del libro de Riane Eisler, El cáliz y la espada, de las diosas a los dioses y las culturas prepatriarcales. Riane es una escritora extraordinaria, no solamente una investigadora, sino una escritora extraordinaria. Es uno de mis libros favoritos. Y aquí voy para entrar en, como quien dice, calor, lo que vamos a estar trabajando hoy. Y dice así: no obstante, no era posible usar la fuerza constantemente para exigir obediencia. Era necesario establecer que los viejos poderes que gobernaban el universo, simbolizados por el cáliz que da la vida, habían sido reemplazados por deidades nuevas y más poderosas en cuyas manos la espada ahora era suprema. Y con este fin era menester conseguir una cosa por encima de todas, que la diosa fuese derribada de su posición elevada, así como su representante terrenal, la mujer. Y ahí empieza el detalle del cambio de la cultura prepatriarcal a la patriarcal. Y continúo. En algunos mitos de Oriente Medio, esto se consigue mediante una historia que relata el asesinato de la diosa. En otras, es degradada y humillada mediante la violación. Por ejemplo, la primera mención al poderoso dios sumerio Enlil de la mitología de Oriente Medio está asociada con la violación de la diosa Ninlil. Estos cuentos servían a un propósito social importante. Simbolizaban y justificaban la imposición de la dominación masculina. Si un dios tiene el poder, el derecho y la libertad de violar a una diosa y también a una humana, el hombre humano también. Y ahí comienzan a cambiarse los patrones de respeto hacia la mujer. Otro recurso común era reducir a la diosa al estatus subordinado de consorte o esposa de un dios masculino más poderoso o transformarla en una deidad marcial. Por ejemplo, en Canaán encontramos a Ishtar, sedienta de sangre, diosa de la guerra, que es a la vez reverenciada y temida. Asimismo, en Anatolia, la diosa fue transformada en una marcial, una característica que, tal y como apunta E.O. James, no aparece en absoluto en textos anteriores. Es decir, Ishtar no es lo que muchas culturas conocieron de ella, sino que era un tipo de diosa dadora de vida y no dadora de guerra. Al mismo tiempo, muchas de las funciones asociadas anteriormente a las deidades femeninas eran reasignadas a los dioses varones. Y así vamos, pues, desarmando el poder y la presencia de las diosas, del poder femenino, sagrado y divino, y también, por ende, de la mujer aquí abajo en la tierra. De esta manera, existe una negación absoluta de que lo femenino y, por tanto, la mujer forma parte de la divinidad. Y así vamos a conversar with Riane Eisler. Now I'm going to speak in English as best as possible. Riane, we have, you have a full life. You lived through the war, and you survive, and then you travel around the world, and finally you stop in California, right?
Right.
Yes. So where were you originally born?
I was born in Vienna, in Austria, and we had to escape because of the Anschluss. The Nazis took over, and on Kristallnacht, a gang of Nazi men, Austrian and German, came to our home to drag my father away. And that really marked the beginning of my questions, because I witnessed, obviously, my parents and I were terrorized.
Yeah.
Yes.
By the Nazis. My father was pushed down the stairs. So I saw violence. I saw cruelty. I saw part of what humans are capable. But I also saw, and today I call it spiritual courage. My mother stand up to them. She recognized one of the Nazis as a young man, an Austrian, who had been an errand boy for the family business. And she got furious. She said, "How dare you do this to this man who has been so kind to you? I want him back." Now, she could have been killed. Many Jewish people were killed that night.
Yes.
But by a miracle, she wasn't. By a miracle, and yes, some money did pass hands. She obtained my father's release, and by a miracle we escaped. And I was left with questions of why. And these are the questions that really led to my research. Why, when we humans, as I saw in my mother, have this capacity for love, for caring,
Yes, in
for,
opposition of so much cruelty. I
yes,
mean, you
precisely.
could see both sides of human beings. Love unconditional and full of courage, and then also cruelty that has no sense, no limits.
So I had to ask myself whether this is, as many of our stories, of course, tell us, whether it's original sin or selfish genes, we're bad. We have to be rigidly controlled, right? And
Yeah.
Right.
God-fearing.
Yeah.
Or is there an alternative? And many years later, of course, I embarked on this whole systems research, and my methodology was very different from conventional studies. I looked at the whole of humanity, both its female and male forms, because there are really only two forms in humanity. I looked at our entire history, including our prehistory, which is this long span of millennia.
Yes.
We oriented more to partnership rather than domination. And of course, I looked at the whole of our lives, at the whole of our relationships, including what is left out of conventional studies of society, family relations, intimate relations. And I
Right.
came up with these two very foundational categories: the domination system and the partnership system, or more properly speaking, the partnership domination social scale, social continuum. And that changed my view and the view of many, many, many others of ourselves and our world, our worldview.
Right. In your book, The Chalice and the Blade, and you also have other books like The Sacred Pleasure, you mention how life was before the patriarchal God and dominance. I learned from you that communities had no walls, had no weapons. They archaeologists have discovered that it was more about art and about partnership, that women had the same rights than men. They could be judges, priestesses, they could be governors. I mean, they share life as much as men and power as much as men. And there was not this way of controlling by physical force, but by knowledge and wisdom. And the god wasn't a male, but a female god, a goddess. And that changed the whole thing because it was the goddess of life. So women were respected. Am I right? Yes?
Well, yes and no, because there were also male gods. And really, one of my findings was that the alternative to patriarchy is not, semantically speaking, matriarchy. It's really
Right.
partnership. And you see it if you look at a figure that is in the cover of the not they chose another figure, I think, in the Spanish edition, but in the US edition, United States edition, the cover is a bird goddess. And she's phallic in shape, but she has breasts, and showing the unity of male and female. But she also shows the unity of all life because she's a bird goddess. So it was I mean, we can only really speak of conjecture, of interpretation. But, art is a symbolic language. And we see a tremendous change in the art from the earlier art, which does not even rarely have hunting scenes. It's more about the myths are very different, and this, the normative stories seem to be very different, and many female figures. But, the first archaeologists didn't even see the vulvas in the cave art. I mean, they were there, but, they called them, and this was very strange, indeterminate objects, quote unquote. They couldn't see it because to them, by then, females and sex, by the church, of course, had been vilified or eroticized domination. The erotization of domination, which I deal with in Sacred Pleasure, very, very much so. And I wish that that book were available in Spanish because it foreshadows so much. And sex, of course, is a basic human necessity, really, for not only procreation, I mean, certainly that, but for pleasure. Humans seek pleasure, and yet this veil of tears, of the Middle Ages, do you remember that expression? It was really reality put on its head, as I write in The Chalice and the Blade. And now our job, of course, is to put reality right side up. And maybe we can talk about the regression to domination that we're in right now, globally, the regression to authoritarianism, the regression to more violence, both in homes and in the world, really, etc. It's really in reaction to movements, many movements, the women's movement, the more recent children's rights movement, the anti-racism movement, the environmental movement, really challenging man's divinely ordained, dominion over everything that moves on this earth, This is a reactive movement, and our job is to show that there is another alternative, that not ideal. And this is, I think that the perfect is the enemy of the good, as the saying goes. It wasn't completely violence-free. Sometimes we lose it, but violence wasn't built into the system. Fear wasn't built into the system. Whether it's the Taliban or fundamentalist Iran, religious Eastern societies, whether it was the Nazis or the former USSR, former secular societies, whether it's the current regressions, they all pay enormous attention. They pay enormous attention to gender.
But Riane, I read somewhere that war is one of the main tools to move back women's liberation, to make it, to destroy it. So whenever women start growing and we start, achieving more for our freedoms and rights, then war, especially World War, starts. It begins. So it's like a tool to suppress the women's freedom.
Well, it's
Do you
more
agree with
than
that?
It's more than that, because war is something that's built into domination system. It's the in-group versus out-group, rather than the interconnection. And empathy, which is a biological fact, we humans are part of an evolutionary movement towards the capacity for empathy, for feeling with another, for thinking with another.
Right.
And yet that empathy has to be either suppressed or compartmentalized to just the in-group and certain members of the in-group, men over women, of course, in the in-group.
Of course.
Even,
And religions, yeah.
even that. So it is more than but the suppression of women is really rigid gender stereotypes, first of all, which men are beginning to challenge, because caring, caregiving, nonviolence, that's a human possibility, and men have it in them. And we see it, at all the men who are today caring for babies, right? Feeding babies, diapering babies. Slowly, some men are showing us right in front of our eyes that it's possible for men, that these gender stereotypes are learned and enforced by domination stories. So, but gender is central, whether, as I said, whether it's the Taliban or Khomeini's Iran or fundamentalist Christians, who they all focus on rigid gender stereotypes and the ranking, because you have to have rigid gender stereotypes to rank them, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, if you don't have them, how it gets kind of fluid. But there's no gender fluidity, and there is no alternative to ranking. So what I was going to say, which was a long way to get there, is men don't have it really so good in domination systems. I mean, think about it. Yes, they get to be, if you will, kings of their castles, of their homes, right? And that was the law, the British common law. I'm an attorney as well, and I studied that because the law really perpetuates these norms of a society, what is considered normal. And we have to remember what Gandhi said, that we must not mistake the customary, the habitual, for the normal.
Right. And Riane, when you write your book, Sacred Pleasure, and you talk about sex and power as a redefinition for politics and economy, and how does sex in women redefine politics and economy? I mean, what's the link between sex and the whole world of power and economy?
Well, in Sacred Pleasure, I introduce the concept of how do domination systems deal with this human sexual sexuality, right? And they do so by making it, number one, sinful. And the church was really tremendous at this, you know.
Yes.
But they also
Sadly.
do it by the erotization of domination and violence. And we see that in the difference between pornography, which is, well, the first pornography is really the missionary position, has to be a man on top, right? And the missionaries really made that. It's funny because the clues are really there, you know. But we haven't been able to see them through the conventional categories, right, left, religious, secular, Eastern, Western, Northern, Southern, you know, etc., capitalist, socialist. So in Sacred Pleasure, I show that the, quote, sexual revolution in one sense was very good for women, but in another sense, it was really not good for women or men because it adopted the norm of what used to be called the one-night stand, which was, you know, the, quote, masculine norm.
Yeah.
And and women have, there's a new book, she's trying to get a publisher for it, and you might want to interview her because she's lovely. Bree Mathers wrote a book.
Wonderful. Connect me with her, and we interview her.
But the point of the book really is to show that this embrace of sexuality by twerking, like Cyrus Miley does, for example, in that very famous musical. That's not women's liberation. It is just another version of women's subordination. I mean, here is a fully clothed older man, right? And she is twerking around him, barely clothed, being very sexual. That is not our power. Our power is so different from that. And really, I mean, and I'm going to be nonlinear, studies show that when women enjoy sex as well as men, it's better for the men too. But what I was going to say about men is very important because, look, men do get to be kings of their castle, of their homes, etc. But they also have to give nothing less than their lives because some guy on top, like a Putin, wants more real estate. And that's happening right now in front of our eyes. And we have to point out to men that they still are part of a hierarchy of domination. And I had to coin new words because every society has some hierarchies, but there's a difference between how power is used in hierarchies of domination and hierarchies of actualization. In hierarchies of actualization, and we see some movement like the servant leadership movement, right? Power is used to empower, and even the word empower is a new thing because you can't, I mean, how can you use power to empower others in domination systems? You can't.
You can't, right?
It is so.
But you know one thing, Riane, Gigi and I have been talking a lot about feminism nowadays, and how feminism in certain groups of feminists that are very powerful, talking about power, are somehow victimizing women and making women so weak and so poor things, you know, if menstruation, they can work. If they do this, they cannot work. If they, you know, it's like the whole system is about protecting the poor women and how women become poor. Feminism, it has changed their goals from equal opportunities to protect poor women. And all women are very weak, and at the same time, they talk about our rights, our powers, our empowerment, and it's very confusing. So how do you see feminism nowadays?
Yeah, and
Well,
especially
look,
Riane, just a moment. We also speak, Tere, that we have this on one side, but in the other, we have laws that now are favoring and granting rights for women that they are not recognized for men. So we have these streams in feminism now working at the same time. How do you relate with that? How you see this moving to partnership have a space in this new understanding of the relation between women and men?
well, equality is often mistaken for sameness. And it isn't. It is valuing difference. And that's why in the United States now there is so much, movement to not talk about valuing difference. And
Right.
I think there are many feminisms, and that we have to recognize that women and men are different biologically.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that women can't be leaders. That doesn't mean
Right.
that women can't do the same work as men. Women tend to have less strengths in their arms, etc., than men do biologically. Although that's questionable because for so long, so long and yet so little time. I mean, it was only in the last 5,000 to 10,000 years that we've seen domination come to become the norm. But and there were millennia of years when we oriented more to partnership, but more is the key. But what I was going to say about feminism, feminism has got a very difficult role. First of all, the term feminism, and I'm a feminist, but I avoid the term because it is like matriarchy. Semantically, a term only applies to women, even though so many, I mean, the men's movement, for example, recognizes the feminist movement as an important, terribly important movement, and embraces it. So, I mean, Gary Barker, who's a friend, Jackson Katz, who's a friend in the United States, to, Equimundo, for example, they really, their whole focus is on caring men, right? But they also include in the caring capacity of men caring about women, not just women caring for men. And that's a difficult word, caring, in Spanish, isn't it?
El cuidado, sí.
El cuidado, sí.
In English, it's like broader. It's like more, covers a lot more. But in Spanish will be el cuidado de.
El cuidado de. And this is linguistic. I mean, language is a problem because in Spanish, for example, you can have one man and 1,000 women, and the plural is still male, right?
Yeah,
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's true that the law changed that language is still continuing pointing in this way. Yeah,
Very
plural
much.
is masculine. Yeah. I have a question for you, Riane, about related to this. Because this finally this conversation is taking us again to to create new terms, new words to express what we want to say. So going back to Gilania, I will want to ask you, how would you explain this to a centennial woman? You know, women that they have now be born in a world of technology, TikTok and Tinder. They, you know, also what about sacred pleasure? How you explain them? How could you explain them about this?
I don't think I understood the question.
Are you talking about Gilania? Gilani?
Yes.
Yes,
How would you
Gilani.
explain the term Gilani to a centennial woman? You know?
How would you explain that term? Well, I believe that Gilania is central to partnership.
Right.
But it is, you know, in my later work, I have, and my last book was published by Oxford University Press, and it's called Nurturing Our Humanity. And I really, it ends with a chapter that introduces 4 cornerstones that I've been working on. The first cornerstone, of course, is family and childhood. And I would love to talk, I don't know when this program will air, but on October 29, we're having a virtual summit called Peace Begins at Home. And
That's wonderful.
I want to change the term domestic violence to family violence, because that's what it is.
It's true. It's true.
But domestic violence has been marginalized. But the second cornerstone is gender. The third cornerstone is economics. And the fourth cornerstone is story and language. And language really is something that we take on as we can. But story, we must tell a different story of what humans are capable of. And what are human possibilities. And that's what my work has been very much. So Gilania, which focuses on the relationship between gyne, the Greek for woman, and andros, the term for man, is central, but it's central to partnership. And our job is to change these 4 foundational pillars from domination to partnership. And if you notice in the regression to domination that we see globally today, a lot of attention is paid to control over children, right? And violent control if necessary, quote unquote, necessary is never necessary. And we don't connect the dots between violence in the home, family violence, and warfare, because that's where children are taught that it is normal to use violence for control. So that's what the summit is about. The summit is also about gender, obviously, because most of the victims of family violence are women and children. Not all of them. Sometimes it's boys. I remember being in the park years ago, and I heard a child crying. And then I heard a man's voice saying, and I'm going to hit you until you stop crying. Boys don't cry. Real men don't cry.
Wow.
Yeah, and that is what happens to little boys, isn't it?
Right.
They are
and it's happening to women too. It's happening to women too. Now there is this masculinization of women, and somehow the archetype that is created by certain groups of feminists is that women have to behave like men and masculinize us, the stereotype of men don't cry. They're fighters. They're conquerors. They are strong people, and they dominate. They want the power, and this is very much the angle many women are falling into.
I don't, if they call themselves feminists, it's a difficult time because it's a time of, I mean, the real struggle for our future is between domination and partnership.
Right.
We are in a period of, we don't know, which way it will go. And of course, human agency will determine what happens. But women are in a very difficult position right now. The power economically is still very much slanted towards hierarchies of domination. So women and some of them call themselves feminists, but I don't consider them feminists. We take the road like Maggie Thatcher took of being tough as nails, right? That's the woman, and struggling. And you have to really be very careful in this a period of transition to have enough of the economic power and use it in order to elevate women, because, as I said, that is gender changing, not to make us the same as men, but make us equitable, to make it an equitable system, and to change the economic rewards, which takes us to one of the books I wrote, which I really wish were in Spanish, The Real Wealth of Nations, because its subtitle is Creating a Caring Economics of Partnerism. And that whole argument between capitalism and socialism is really a distraction. Both Marx and Smith considered, as far as the caring work that keeps society going, it was to be performed for free by a woman in a male-controlled household, and they called it reproductive. And that's, if you think about it, being transmitted to us through our GDP and GNP, through how we measure productivity. It's not productive work. And neither, the three life-sustaining sectors are, as I point out in The Real Wealth of Nations, the natural economy, the volunteer community economy, and the household economy are not considered productive. And hence, their externalities. And this is really reality stood on its head. So that a storm that is very destructive ends up by the reconstruction work being productive work, right?
Right. Right.
Really, I mean, the damage that it does to people, that's an externality. The damage that it does to nature. So a tree is not part of GMP or GDP. It's only part of GMP or GDP when it is dead, when it's a log that can be bought and sold.
So sad. So
this is
Riane, go on.
Well, I was going to say we need to reward and change our economic system so that we reward caring work. And that would be rewarding not only the quote women's work, which we're trying to not have it confined to women, of course, of caring for people and caring for nature, our Mother Earth, right? I mean, the clues are there, aren't they? In our language even. But really having both men and women and everybody in between be caring and receive rewards for caring, and no longer teach in our business schools, in our economic schools, this very wrong difference between reproductive and productive work. That's the
Right.
beginning. And we
That's the
did
beginning.
put together some social wealth economic indicators, and you can find them on our website at centerforpartnership.org.
And that's the next thing that we want to talk with you about, because you are the head, maybe creator, correct me if I'm wrong, you are the head and the creator of this organization that is called Center of Partnership.
Center
And
for
with
Partnership
it,
Systems, right?
system, and you are with it, you are looking to create a movement and to create a change in the world, especially in society and economic and politics. So we would like to know from you, what is Center for of Partnership System works for?
Well,
What is this about?
it derives from our work, of course, and
Yes.
it is a very much of a center dedicated to whole systems change, from domination to partnership. So among our projects are the summit that's coming up, the Peace Begins at Home Summit, and there's a special website, by the way, for those who want to access it. It's called Peace Begins at Home Summit. Remember the summit, it's very important, .org.
And it's going to be every year. This summit is going to be every year or every 2 years, or just this time?
That it will, the next year will be a summit on economics, bringing all of the economic thinkers who are realizing that we cannot continue with this distinction between productive and
reproductive.
and really just reproductive, that somehow we have to reward the work of caring. And this is very difficult in a monetized society, but it has to be done. And we can't do away, as some feminists have argued, with money, and have it be the gift economy, because that just perpetuates the system. It
Right.
was inferior. So we have a really big challenge. And the challenge is to make this shift from domination to partnership without the tremendous suffering and dislocation. We have to be prepared to substitute an economic system, to substitute a partnership, also family system. That's what the summit is about, of course, this year. We have to be prepared really with new norms, what is considered normal for human beings. And that depends on whether we orient to domination or partnership. And the stories have to be.
Riane, how did to close? We have to say we have to come to an end. And how about if you draw us how you see the world when the main way to relate with each other is partnership? How do you see it?
I see it coming because we are interconnected, not only through technologies of communication and transportation, but through technologies that I call technologies of destruction, like nuclear bombs,
Right.
right, that can destroy us in a minute, and more slowly through climate change. This is a global issue. So we are in an era when survival, not just thriving, as human beings, because human beings seek pleasure, not pain. And the threat of pain, fear of pain, is what holds domination systems together. And this is not necessary. We have an alternative. Look, I mean, there's going to be fear. There's going to be fear of illness, fear of earthquakes, fear of whatever. But we don't have to add to it by having a system that requires fear of pain. So how do I see this world? We're in it already. We're two Nobel Prize winners in physics just got last year the Nobel Prize in physics for their work on showing that on the subatomic level, we are all interconnected. We're all entangled. We are there already, but we cannot, Einstein said it, we cannot really expect that the same consciousness, the same worldview that created our problems is going to solve them.
Right.
We have to change our worldview and recognize the recognition, the consciousness of our interconnection is the first thing. And unfortunately, domination systems are trauma factories. It starts in childhood. That's why we're having this summit, because we know from neuroscience, as we explain in Nurturing Our Humanity, that the first 5 years of life, when our brains are not fully formed yet, are critical. And if we normalize violence, we're going to vote for punitive policies. We're going to think that war is normal. We're going to think of peace as just an interval between wars. It's just the absence temporarily of war. We have to change our worldview and recognize that for millennia, we oriented more to partnership. So the change in consciousness is really the first thing that we have to create. And then human creativity will take over.
You know, Riane, I'm part of GG2. Gilania is. We are part of a training, a certification for parity and human rights. This international certification is created by Women for Solutions by Laura, that you know, and she's the one who introduced us. And one thing that when I give my classes, I always talk about you. I always talk about Gilania and partnership and everything that you have said, of course, in a much simpler way than the one that you do right now. But we are doing our best to teach women and men about your books and your teachings and your ideal, your goal for society and politics and economic. So you count on us to spread the word, because that's what we are, what we believe in. Okay.
Well, I thank you. I'm so grateful because I'm old and I want to leave this legacy, not only for my children and my grandchildren, but for all children. And there is a child in every one of us crying, saying, I want to be happy. I want pleasure. I want to develop. And that child, whether it's a woman or a man or anybody in
Right.
between, deserves a worldview, a world in which human rights is the standard. Because I really am glad that you mentioned that. We have a standard in partnership societies. It is not like deconstructionism, which has even crept into women's studies. You know, like there's no category called woman. I mean, this is insane. Of course, there's a category called woman. It may vary from culture to culture, but there is a category called woman. We must have human rights standards because deconstructionism is so terrible. It is so reactionary because if there are no standards, okay, if anything goes, right, then people tend to revert to what they've been taught, domination standards. And so we have to teach what you are teaching, human rights standards. But unfortunately, cultures globally, I mean, fundamentalist cultures globally, whether they're Christian or Muslim or Orthodox Judaism, they really make the distinction between what is the standard for men and what is the standard for women. So we have to start there, because if children observe and are taught that to think about it, to identify difference, which is fundamentally in form, right? There are these two forms, male and female. If they are taught that there are rigid gender stereotypes and that you must rank masculine and male over, quote, feminine, which is caring, caregiving, nonviolence, right? Coded, in domination systems, and female, you internalize a standard for difference that equates difference, whether it's racial, whether it's anti-Semitism or racism. It doesn't really matter. Any in-group versus out-group, difference with superiority or inferiority, with dominating or being dominated, with being served or serving. Think of all the pictures we've seen of the women standing behind the men, right?
Right.
Or eating, and the women are serving them. This is fundamental. We've got to recognize how fundamental gender is to what we are taught. And it is not just a women's issue. It's a fundamental family, social, economic issue.
That's right. It's the whole system. It's the whole system. So, Riane, thank you very much. Gigi, thank you very much for being here. We come to an end, but hopefully, maybe in the near future, we have Riane again in another episode. But right now, we have to say goodbye. We have to say goodbye to Riane and her wisdom and beauty, because she's such a beautiful woman. You have to look at the hair. She's such a beautiful woman. I want to be like her when I'm older. So thank you, Riane, for your wisdom, knowledge, for your investigations, for your words to us, and for being open to share with so much humbleness about everything you know with us. And thank you to Women for Solutions for, y esto lo voy a decir ahora en español, gracias a Women for Solutions por acompañarnos y permitir que estos espacios se den. Es nuestra patrocinante principal, junto con nuestros queridos, a ver, digan el nombre para que los escuchen. Ajá. Es Marketing 360. Es Marketing 360. ¿Escucharon la voz de un hombre? que nos está apoyando. Es que quería que escucharan su voz de hombre. Y por supuesto a todos ustedes que nos están acompañando y nos van a seguir acompañando en otros episodios para poder aprender mucho más sobre lo que es las mal contadas y desafiando la historia mal contada de la mujer. Hoy hicimos un viaje que es bien interesante y lo vamos a continuar en otros episodios con otras personas expertas que siempre nos apoyan. Gracias y escribe tus comentarios, preguntas, ideas, propuestas para nosotras poder leerlas y poder proveerlas también. Gracias.
Gracias a
Yeah.
todos.
A pleasure, Riane, and honor too. Un placer y un honor.
Eh,
Thank
y
you. Bye bye.